Decode relationships transform connections. Welcome to Katherine Life Advice. Ladies, have you ever stared at your phone wondering what to text him that moment when your heart races just a little and you're trying to say just enough without saying too much? Well, you're not alone. And here's the truth: the right text at the right time can melt a man's heart and deepen your connection in ways you never imagined. Today I'm revealing 4 powerful types of texts that men absolutely love, and I don't mean love like that's cute. I mean line like "this woman gets me." So grab your tea, take a deep breath, and stay with me, because what we're about to uncover might just change how you see texting forever. Imagine a man out in the world fighting his battles, navigating the relentless chaos of modern life. He's not perfect. He knows that he carries a weight, sometimes visible, sometimes buried deep beneath layers of silence and duty, and yet he presses forward. Why? Often he doesn't even know. He just knows he must. That's the masculine burden now. In that chaos, that storm, when a message appears from someone he values, something simple like "I appreciate you," it's not just a text, it's a recognition of his struggle. It's someone finally seeing him. This isn't about flattery. This isn't about stroking the ego or playing games of romantic manipulation. This is about truth. It's about meaning. A man needs to know that what he does matters. He needs to feel that his presence isn't just tolerated, it's respected, valued, and perhaps even needed. When a woman sends a message that acknowledges his effort without demanding more, without twisting it into a transaction, it pierces through the noise. It signals to the man: you are seen, you are recognized, you are enough right now, just as you are now. Consider this: the world teaches men to keep going no matter what, to bury exhaustion, to numb vulnerability, to turn success into duty and affection into silence. And yet even the strongest man, even the most stoic, quietly longs for someone to look into the wreckage of his day and say, "I see the good you're doing." And it doesn't go unnoticed. That kind of message is a balm. It's stabilizing. It gives him something the world rarely does: dignity. You want undead men start by understanding their side, pain of invisibility, of performing, producing, and protecting without ever hearing "thank you for doing this" when you didn't have to. The text, I appreciate you, isn't just an act of kindness, it's an act of courage, because it acknowledges that he is not just a utility, but a human being, one with desires, fatigue, and yes, a soul that longs to be recognized. When that message arrives, something in him exhales. His guard softens. His sense of being alone in the fight diminishes. Now you might say, "But why should I be the one to send that? Shouldn't he know I care?" Well, perhaps, but love, real love, is not just felt, it is spoken. And when you put words to your gratitude, when you form them deliberately and send them with intention, you take what is abstract and make it real. And that in turn makes him more real. That's no small thing. That's the beginning of a deeper connection. Now let's look at another method. So deceptively simple, it's often underestimated. Thinking of you, it seems casual, light, maybe even meaningless, but in truth it's profound. Think of what it communicates. In a world obsessed with busyness, with distraction and noise, to be thought of is a powerful form of intimacy. It's proof that he is present in your mind, even in his absence, that you carry something of him quietly throughout your day. And that feeling that tells a man he matters beyond the moment, beyond the task, beyond what he does or gives. For a man to receive a message like that, unexpected, unprovoked, is to feel chosen, not because of what he offers, but simply because he exists. In your mental space, that text affirms that he has left a mark on your heart, not just your schedule. And don't underestimate how rare that is. Most men are so used to being needed, for their function to fix, to plan, to provide, that they begin to wonder whether anyone cares for them outside of those roles. But when you send that message, you separate yourself from the noise. You show him that he is not just a role to you. He's a presence, a thought, a comfort. And what happens then? He softens, not in weakness, but in relief that someone remembers him without requiring anything of him. And that creates space for vulnerability, for connection, for him to show you more of who he really is, not the man he performs, but the man he hides. And when a woman can hold space for that man, well, that's where intimacy begins to transcend performance. These messages, they seem small, but that's the tragedy of modern connection, isn't it? We mistake brevity for superficiality. We underestimate the weight of a well-chosen phrase. But men don't need novels, they don't need essays. What they need is precision, honest respect. Something that speaks directly to the core of their isolation. Says, "I see you, I think of you, you are not invisible here." That's not just texting, that's healing. And to those who say, "But what if he doesn't respond?" Well, perhaps that's part of the journey because sending a message from a place of authenticity rather than expectation is an act of strength. Not everything you give will be received in the way you hope, but if you're brave enough to speak truth into the quiet corners of a man's soul, you've already done something radical, something transformative. These texts, they're more than digital exchanges. They are invitations, Tiger, invitations to matter, invitations to be human. And a world that trains men to be machines, that is no small gift when a woman sends a message that begins with, "You make me feel." She is offering something incredibly rare in today's emotionally malnourished world: emotional transparency, and not just transparency in a self-indulgent performative way, but rather she is extending a bridge between two psyches. She is taking the swirling, complex internal world that we all carry, the one that men so often feel excluded from, and she's pulling him into it gently, courageously. Men aren't just looking to be desired, they're looking to matter, to impact. And when a woman tells a man, "You make me feel safe," or "You calm me in ways I can't explain," or even "You make me laugh when I didn't think I could," she is in that moment making him real, because what is masculinity without consequence, without the power to affect, influence, to inspire or protect? It is hollow, it is directionless. And so to be told how he moves you emotionally, spiritually, this does more than flatter a man. It anchors him to meaning, and meaning is what he craves. Understand this: men don't want to just exist in your life, they want to resonate. That is to say, they want to see evidence that their presence is felt deeply, that it isn't just a nice addition but a transformative one. And when you speak in the language of impact, you are not just expressing emotion, you are validating his identity. You are whispering into the part of his mind that questions endlessly: am I enough? Am I good? Am I effective? This is why vague compliments fall flat. "You're nice" is forgettable. You always know how to bring peace to my chaos" is unforgettable. Why? Because it speaks directly to his essence, not just his behavior. And that is the difference between praise that lifts a man and praise that leaves him cold. Now I understand many people are afraid of being so direct with their feelings. They say, "What if I expose myself?" and he pulls away. And yes, that's a risk, but that fear, that haunting fear of vulnerability, must be weighed against something much worse: emotional starvation. Because if you withhold your truth in an attempt to control the outcome, you strip the interaction of authenticity, and what remains is just another empty performance. You might preserve your pride, but you lose the chance at something real. Men, for all their armor, are drawn to sincerity. It disarms them. And in an age where masculinity is either worshiped blindly or demonized unfairly, they are starving for spaces where they can simply be not judged, not evaluated, but seen. And when you show a man the emotional impact he has on you without strings attached, you're offering him that space. You're saying, "You exist in my world in a way that no one else does." That's not weakness, that's spiritual bravery. And now the dance of connection takes a new form: the art of challenge, not confrontation, not manipulation, but challenge in the ancient noble sense, the kind that stirs the masculine energy into motion. There is a certain power in a woman who can smile, tilt her head slightly, and say something playful like, "Are you sure you can keep up with me?" Not because she's trying to assert dominance, but because she's awakening something dormant in him, his instinct to engage, to pursue, to earn. You see, men are naturally drawn to what they must reach for, not what is withheld out of cruelty, but what is held high with worth. The message isn't "prove yourself" or "be discarded." That's petty and rooted in fear. The message is, "I see myself as worthy of effort. Do you have the heart to meet me there?" And when that is communicated not with arrogance, but with a kind of playful grace, it electrifies the dynamic between two people. Think of it in a world where everything is handed over easily, where connection is often reduced to swipes and emojis and late night apathy. A woman who sends a message that both invites and challenges, a message that says, "I like you, but I'm not a prize you win with minimum effort." That woman stands out, and it's not about playing hard to get. It's about being authentic to your standards, your depth, your own sacred worth. Men respond to challenge not because they need to conquer, because they are wired to strive for meaning. And when a woman makes it clear that she is not merely a resting place, but a living force, something within him stirs. He begins to see her not as a possession, but as a possibility, a mystery, a mirror to his best self. But let me be clear, this kind of challenge must come from love, not from insecurity. It must emerge from self-respect, not control. When you send a message that flirts without pandering, that teases without pondering, you show him that there is both lightness and substance in your spirit. You are in essence giving him permission to rise into his own strength, not by force, but by invitation. These are the conversations that ignite something ancient, something sacred, not games, not tactics, but the timeless tension between the masculine and the feminine. He fixes the hinge on the cabinet door that's been bothering you. Maybe he fills up the gas tank on your car before handing over the keys. None of these are grand gestures. None of them will make headlines or sweep you off your feet in the cinematic sense, but each one of them is a choice, a decision to add value, to alleviate burden, to say, I care not through words, but through action. And when you respond to that, not just with thanks, but with something precise, like I saw how you handled that issue with the car, I felt so relieved knowing I didn't have to deal with it. You're doing something many people never do. You're linking his behavior to your internal world. You're saying, I noticed what you did. I understood. It had an emotional impact on me. That's powerful. That tells him he's not invisible, that he's not just checking boxes in the background of your life, that what he brings isn't just function, it's value, and that value must be spoken, because if it's not articulated, it doesn't exist in the relational space people say he should know. I appreciate. No, he shouldn't be, because the world he moves through day after day isn't always kind. It's not soft. It doesn't reward effort with warmth or even acknowledgement. Most men exist in systems that only respond to failure, where doing your job well simply means you're given more to carry. And over time, that can hollow a man out. But when you speak gratitude with specificity, when you connect the dots between his actions and your emotional response, you give him a rare gift, evidence that he is having a positive effect, that his presence matters, that he isn't merely tolerated or expected, but appreciated. And that appreciation becomes a form of emotional currency in the relationship. It builds trust, it deepens loyalty, and it cultivates a sense of purpose that fuels further contribution. Because here's something people often overlook: when men feel appreciated, they do more, not out of obligation, not out of fear, but out of desire, because gratitude motivates in a way that criticism never can. Criticism shrinks the soul, gratitude expands it. It creates the conditions for growth, for generosity, for deeper emotional investment, but only when it is real, earned, and voiced clearly. Now consider another kind of message, one that operates not in the present, but in the possible, not in what is, but in what could be. Where would we go if we just took off for the weekend? What do you think our dream home would look like? These questions are playful, yes, but they are also profound, because they invite the man to do something very few people ever ask of him: to imagine a future with you, to step beyond the current moment with all its routines and limitations, and to explore a shared horizon. That's not just romantic fantasy, that's psychological bonding. It's allowing your minds to overlap in a space beyond logistics, is vision building. And for a man who is often expected to be the planner, the strategist, the driver of forward motion, to receive an invitation into that future from a woman, it's freeing. It tells him you're not carrying this alone, that you're not just walking beside him in the now, but you're dreaming with him into the unknown. And dreams matter, because in the absence of shared dreams, relationships become transactional. They become survival-orientated, functional, dead. But when you say, let's imagine this together, you inject vitality into the connection. You activate hope. And hope in a chaotic world is a revolutionary force. It lifts people out of cynicism. It creates motivation. Where there was stagnation, it breathes life back into weary hearts. And here's something deeper still: when you ask these questions, you reveal your own inner world. You expose the desires that live behind your eyes. You allow him to see not just the competent, capable day-to-day you, but the dreaming, wondering, becoming you. And that's magnetic, because it shows you trust him with your imagination, with your vulnerability. And that kind of trust is the soil where love flourishes. Men are often taught to be realists, to be practical, to deal in what is rather than what could be. But that's not the whole truth. Men also long to build, to construct, to pursue goals that matter. And when you invite him into that process, not with demands or ultimatums, but with curiosity and warmth, you awaken that archetypal part of him that wants to create a life, not just pass the time. And so those messages, those seemingly lighthearted questions about trips or houses or dreams, they're not insignificant. They are blueprints for intimacy. They are acts of courage masquerading as flirtation. They are expressions of faith in a shared future delivered through pixels and words, but felt deep in the psyche. And in that space where gratitude meets vision, something sacred emerges. A partnership not built on convenience or fear, but on respect, appreciation, and the willingness to dream. There's something hauntingly beautiful about a message that simply says, I believe in you. Not as a throwaway phrase, not as some motivational poster line, but as a deeply personal, emotionally grounded affirmation of who a man is and what he is capable of becoming. That kind of message doesn't just encourage, it restores, because for many men, belief is the one thing they are starving for, but afraid to ask. It's what they've been silently seeking beneath all their striving, their responsibilities, their stoicism. A might not say it out loud. In fact, he probably what? Every man is carrying doubt about his ability to provide, to be enough, to live up to the expectations he's internalized from a lifetime of unrelenting pressure. And you must understand those doubts are not always loud, they're not always visible. Often they are buried, woven into the background of his daily existence, where they quietly erode his confidence and clarity. And when you as a woman cut through that fog with a direct, sincere message, I believe in you, and I see what you're capable of. You are doing something sacred. You are speaking to the part of him that the world forgot. You are pulling him out of isolation and into connection. And belief, real belief, has to be earned. It can't be handed out like candy. That's why it matters so much when it's spoken genuinely, because when you say you believe in a man, you're not just cheering from the sidelines. You're placing him. You're saying, I've seen your placing. I am not betting on the version of you that the world critiques. I am betting on the deeper, truer future. That's not flattery, that's vision. And here's what's so psychologically powerful about that. When someone believes in you, especially when you're not at your best, it creates a psychological tension, not a guilt trip, not pressure, but a pull, a draw toward who you could be in the eyes of someone who truly sees you. It's like holding up a mirror that reflects not who he is, but who he is meant to be. And if a man respects you, if he values your opinion and your discernment, that belief won't just sit idly in his heart. It will move him, it will call him upward. And sometimes that message, that moment when you say, you've got this, I trust your strength, is the difference between him giving up or holding on. You may never know how close he was to walking away from something important, but your words can be the anchor, the breath of air when his lungs are tightening under the weight of the unknown. But it has to come from a place of authenticity. Belief is not blind optimism. It's not naive. It is a conscious decision to see the gold in someone even when it's still buried under rubble. And when you express that belief with clarity and conviction, especially through something as simple as a text, you are offering more than comfort. You're offering a kind of existential validation, one that says you are not alone in this. I'm here and I see what's in you even when you can't see it yourself. Now let's turn to something even more intimate, a message that says you don't have to carry everything alone. At first glance, it sounds like support, and it is, but it's also something much deeper. It's a challenge to the very structure of masculine identity, an identity built often on silence and self-containment. Men are trained by family, by culture, by their own biology to endure, to absorb stress, to bear the weight of others quietly without flinching. And to ask for help, that's not just hard. It feels like failure, like weakness, like betrayal of the very foundation they built themselves upon. But here's the irony. No one, no matter how strong, was designed to bear everything alone. That myth, the myth of the invulnerable man, is not only false, it's deadly. It isolates, it creates emotional deserts, and it destroys intimacy. Because intimacy requires exposure. If a man can't open, if he can't admit that he's tired or lost or afraid, then no matter how close he is physically, he is still emotionally exiled. So when a woman sends a message softly but powerfully that says, I'm here, you don't have to do this all by yourself, is reaching through that isolation, and she's cutting through decades of conditioning, and she's offering not just help but partnership, not as a savior, not as a critic, but as a witness, a partner in the true sense, someone who says, let me shoulder a little bit, let me see you, not just your strength, but your exhaustion too. That message creates a crack in the armor, and through that crack, love can finally breathe. It doesn't mean he'll collapse in your arms, doesn't mean he'll cry or suddenly unload all his secrets, but it does mean you've made it safe for him to stop pretending, even if only for a moment. And in a world where men are taught that their value is directly proportional to their silence, that is a radical healing gesture. It's not about fixing his problems, it's not your role, but what you can do, what so few people have the strength and awareness to do, is create a container of safety, a place where he can begin to believe that connection doesn't mean exposure to danger, but exposure to compassion. That opening up doesn't mean losing control. It means finding a tether when the storm threatens to rip him away. And when that main message is sent with care, with empathy, without judgment, it creates something unshakable, a bond rooted not in fantasy or performance, but in the real gritty sacred work of seeing each other in our full humanity. It's what turns affection into alliance, but what turns romance into refuge, and what reminds him at the most critical moments that he is not merely a provider of strength, but a recipient of grace. Now, here's the truth. No one talks about texting isn't just about words. It's not energy, it's about intention. Every message you send is either building a bridge or creating a wall. So next time your finger hovers over that keyboard, ask yourself, what do I want him to feel from this? As that is the secret if this resonated with you, if it sparked a light, a realization, or it just made you smile, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, subscribe so you never miss a moment of clarity, confidence, and connection. Drop a comment below. Have you ever sent a text that got a surprising reaction, or is there one you wish you had sent? Let's talk about it. And if you have a topic you'd love me to explore next, whether it's about dating, communication, or self-worth, suggest it in the comments. We're building something beautiful here, a space where wisdom meets warmth. And your voice, it belongs here. Until next time, text with heart, love with courage, and never forget you're worth connecting with.